Aria Bennett was late. Her heels clacked sharply against the polished floor of Austin Bergstrom Airport's Terminal B, each step a reminder that the most important interview of her life was slipping further and further out of reach. Clutched in her left hand was a creased boarding pass to Chicago. In her right, a phone glowing with last-minute bullet points about brand image strategy and crisis management. Everything she had spent 2 sleepless nights memorizing. She weaved through the crowd with practiced grace, the kind that came from years of being underestimated in rooms dominated by louder, richer voices. The boarding gate was just ahead, but the voice that stopped her didn't come from inside her head. "Please, can you help me?" The words were soft but urgent, and something in their tone sliced through the din of the terminal. Aria froze mid-stride. She turned. A young black man, maybe a few years older than her, was slumped near a vending machine, gripping the side as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. His right ankle twisted awkwardly beneath him, his brow dotted with sweat despite the chilled air conditioning swirling through the building. She looked at her phone. 7 minutes until the gate closed. 7 minutes to grab her future. "I think I sprained it," the man said, teeth gritted but voice controlled. "Lost my balance after a red-eye. Just need help standing." Aria stared for a heartbeat too long. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. "You can't afford to miss your chances. Nobody's going to wait for you, Aria." And yet, she was already slipping her phone into her purse and crouching beside the stranger. "Don't move too fast," she said quietly. "Let me get your arm." He was lean, not heavy, but the moment she tried to lift him, his weight pressed against her shoulder with an unexpected intensity. She grit her teeth and helped him rise, his breath catching slightly as his injured foot barely touched the ground. "Where's your gate?" she asked. "C-14, he answered. Opposite direction. Of course, if she helped him there, she would never make hers in time. But when she looked around at the crowd, people rushing by with earbuds in, not even sparing a glance, her decision was made. "All right," she said, hoisting his arm a little higher over her shoulder. "Let's get you there." They walked slowly, painfully slowly across the terminal. Travelers zipped past, glancing but not stopping. Aria's shoulder began to throb, her toes cramping in her heels, but she kept her pace steady. "What's your name?" she asked. "Damien," he said with a small smile. "Yours?" "Aria. Aria Bennett." "I owe you, Aria." "Just buy me a coffee if we end up on the same flight," she joked, breathless. He chuckled. "Deal." When they reached the gate, a bored-looking flight attendant barely blinked before checking Damien's ID. "You're an executive first. We'll get you through the VIP ramp," she said. Aria blinked. "Executive first?" She looked at him, confused. He just smiled. "Long story," he said. "I'm good from here." And with that, he limped down the jet bridge, leaving Aria to turn and sprint back toward Gate 6A. But it was too late. The gate was empty. The display screen mocked her with a simple word: departed. She sank onto the nearest bench, chest heaving, heart pounding. Her phone buzzed. An email from the recruiter. "We regret to inform you the interview slot has been filled. No rescheduling possible." She stared at the screen until the words blurred. One decision, one choice to help someone. And now everything she had been working toward for the last 3 years was gone. She leaned back against the cold metal bench, closed her eyes, and let the disappointment settle into her bones like fog. But under the weight of it all, something stubborn refused to be crushed. It was pride. Not arrogance, not false bravado, just a quiet, unshakable belief that she had done the right thing. She opened her eyes to the fluorescent buzz of the terminal and let herself breathe. She hadn't known that just a few gates away, Damien Cross, founder and CEO of Skyreach Aviation, was already watching her from a distance, remembering her name, and asking his assistant to find out everything he could about the woman who had helped him when everyone else walked by. Not because he owed her, but because in a world where most people were too busy to care, Aria Bennett had stopped. Aria didn't return home right away. After the missed flight, after the email that quietly slammed the door on her most promising opportunity in years, she sat for hours in the airport caf, nursing a lukewarm coffee and watching planes come and go through the glass. She hadn't told anyone what had happened. Not her mother, not her friends, not even herself in any honest way. It wasn't just about missing a flight. It was the cruel twist that for once she had listened to her better nature, and the world had punished her for it. She kept playing the moment over again in her head, the soft voice asking for help, her hesitation, the choice, the weight of his arm over her shoulder, the tired smile on his face as he said, "Thank you." It all felt both meaningless and strangely significant. When her phone buzzed again, she didn't look at it right away. She was half hoping it was the recruiter saying they'd made a mistake, that the slot had opened again. But when she finally glanced down, the message was from an unknown number. It simply read, "Hi, it's Damien. I hope this isn't a bad time. I'd really like to talk to you. No pressure. Let me know." She stared at the message, confused at first. Damien? Her brow furrowed. Then it clicked. The man at the airport. The sprained ankle. Executive first. Long story. Why would he text her? She almost didn't reply. Then something in her chest tugged again, that stubborn, steady instinct that had made her stop the first time. She typed, "I'm still at the airport. Not the best day, honestly." She hovered for a moment, then hit send. The reply came faster than she expected. "Can I meet you now? I'm in the VIP lounge. Just want to talk." Aria stared at the message, unsure if this was foolish or inevitable. She stood anyway, collected her things, and made her way through the maze of corridors toward the place she was certain she didn't belong. The VIP lounge was exactly what she expected. Quiet, sleek, flooded with natural light and quiet jazz humming through the air. Everyone in there seemed perfectly put together. Every coat was designer, every watch shimmered subtly. She felt immediately out of place in her scuffed heels and wrinkled blouse. But then she saw him. Damien Cross was no longer slouched, no longer limping. He stood near a leather couch, back straight, dressed in a fitted blazer, black shirt open just enough at the collar, confidence settled across his shoulders like something he'd worn his whole life. When he saw her, he smiled, not the polished kind, but the quiet kind that asked for nothing. "Aria," he said, stepping forward, "thank you for coming." She nodded, eyes wary. "I almost didn't." "But you did," he said, gesturing for her to sit. She lowered herself into the soft leather chair, unsure what to expect. "Why did you want to talk to me?" she asked. "Because," he said gently, "I think I might owe you my life, and I don't say that lightly." Aria blinked. "What?" He exhaled slowly. "I wasn't just some tired traveler. I'm Damien Cross, CEO of Skyreach Aviation. I was supposed to be traveling alone that morning for security reasons. There had been threats recently, and my team insisted I dress down, keep a low profile. What I didn't expect was to actually get injured, and certainly not to meet someone who would stop." She was silent, unsure if he was being serious or just eccentric. "You're serious?" "Yes," he nodded. "And when I saw you again, well, I tried to find you immediately. I asked my staff to pull airport footage, find your boarding pass data. Not to invade your privacy, but because I wanted to thank you properly." Arya folded her arms. "Missing that flight cost me a job interview, a big one. I don't think thanks is going to fix that." "I'm not here to fix it," Damien said softly. "I'm here to offer you something better." She laughed, incredulous. "Like what?" "A position," he said without hesitation. "Head of PR for a new global initiative we're launching. You'd be reporting directly to me. The salary would exceed what you were expecting in Chicago. And more importantly, it would be a chance to help shape something meaningful from the ground up." Arya stared at him. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You don't know me. I know enough. I watched a woman give up her opportunity to help a stranger. I saw integrity when no one else even paused. That's the kind of person I want helping build the voice of my company." She sat back, heart thudding so loud she could feel it in her ears. "Why me?" "Because," Damien said quietly, "you saw me when I was invisible, and I don't forget people like that." She didn't respond. Couldn't. It was too much, too sudden, too impossible. "I don't need an answer now," he added, sliding a card across the table. "But think about it. We're flying to Chicago next week. I'd love for you to come with us. Meet the team. See if it feels right. If not, no pressure. You walk away." Arya took the card but didn't look at it. Her thoughts were a storm of disbelief, curiosity, and the smallest flicker of hope she'd dared to feel in weeks. "Okay," she said finally. "I'll think about it." Damien smiled. "That's all I ask." He stood, buttoned his blazer, and looked at her one last time. "And Arya?" She looked up. "You're not invisible either. Don't forget that." Then he was gone, slipping through the lounge doors and leaving her breathless in a sea of silent leather chairs, holding a business card that might as well have been a map to an entirely new life. Arya didn't sleep that night. She lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling fan turning slowly above her, the business card Damien Cross had given her resting on the nightstand like a loaded question. Part of her still couldn't believe any of it had happened. That she had helped a stranger, missed an interview, and somehow ended up being offered a job by a man who controlled one of the most innovative aviation companies in the country. She kept thinking of the way he had looked at her, not with pity or gratitude, but with recognition, as if he had seen not just what she had done, but who she was. She had spent so much of her life feeling unseen, like a placeholder in other people's stories. And yet here was this man, this powerful stranger, who looked at her as if she mattered, really mattered. By morning, she still hadn't made up her mind. She walked to the cafe near her building, ordered her usual coffee, and sat near the window, watching the city wake up. Her phone buzzed once, a text from Damien. "Just checking in, no pressure, still hoping you'll come to Chicago. Let me know if you're free today. I'll make time." Arya read the message twice, then 3 times. She didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, she closed her eyes and tried to remember the girl she was before all this. The one who had studied hard, taken on unpaid internships, worked nights just to keep her apartment. She had dreamed of something bigger, something honest, but had settled for a string of mediocre positions that made her feel small. She had forgotten what it felt like to be wanted for more than a skill set on a resume. She opened her eyes and stared at the text again. Then she typed 2 words. "I'm in." The reply came almost instantly. "Great. I'll send the flight details. We leave tomorrow morning. No suits necessary, just bring yourself. The next day, Arya stood on the tarmac at a private airport outside the city, squinting into the sun as the Skyreach jet descended from the clouds with a sleek hum. She hadn't packed much, just a carry-on with a few changes of clothes, her laptop, and the stubborn sense that if she didn't do this now, she might never move forward. Damien met her at the steps of the plane, dressed casually in a black button-down and dark jeans, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. "You came," he said, a smile touching the corners of his mouth. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I," she admitted. "But I figured if you were crazy enough to offer me a job, the least I could do was see what kind of madness I was stepping into." "Fair enough," he said, gesturing toward the cabin. "Come see the madness." Inside, the jet was quiet and beautiful. Soft leather seats, a small conference table, windows that stretched wide enough to feel the sky pressing close. Damien poured her a coffee without asking and handed it to her with the same ease as if they'd known each other for years. As the plane ascended, he explained the project. A new division within Skyreach aimed at bridging aviation services to underdeveloped regions. Building not just airports but opportunity. Training locals, equipping underserved youth, creating pipelines that changed lives, not just routes. "It's more than a press campaign," he said. "It's a voice, and I need someone who can help shape that voice, someone with heart, with integrity. You." Arya listened, coffee forgotten in her hands. The idea was enormous, the responsibility terrifying. But underneath all of it was something she hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. When they landed in Chicago, a car took them straight to the Skyreach headquarters, a modern tower of glass and steel rising above the lakefront. Inside, the air buzzed with quiet confidence. People moved with intention, their eyes bright, their faces focused. Damien introduced her to the team. The heads of operations, the director of training, the woman leading the Kenya pilot program. All of them greeted her like someone who belonged, not someone who was being tested. At lunch, they sat on the rooftop terrace overlooking the water. Damien leaned back in his chair, his face tilted toward the sun. "You know," he said quietly, "most people think leadership is about control. I used to think that too, but it's not. It's about trust, seeing people clearly, and giving them the space to surprise you." Arya sipped her drink and watched him. "Is that what you're doing with me?" "Partly," he said. "But mostly, I'm betting on someone who didn't hesitate when it counted." That night, in her hotel room, Arya looked out over the city lights and felt the shift beginning deep inside her. She had come to Chicago expecting to be overwhelmed. Instead, she felt like she had stepped into the pages of a life that might finally fit. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Damien. "Just checking in. Tomorrow we meet the investors. Don't worry about impressing them. Just be you." She stared at the message, heart full, unsure if she was more terrified or grateful. Maybe both. She typed back slowly. "No promises, but I'll be there." And when she turned off the lights and lay back in the quiet, she didn't feel like someone who had missed a flight. She felt like someone who had finally arrived. The next morning, Arya stood in front of the full-length mirror in her hotel room, adjusting the collar of her pale blue blouse. It wasn't the most formal outfit she owned, but it felt like her, clean, honest, sharp without screaming. Her fingers trembled slightly as she brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was anticipation. She checked her watch. 30 minutes until the investor briefing. The sky outside had turned a soft amber, sunlight slicing through the tall buildings like promises made real. Downstairs in the lobby, Damien was already waiting. He smiled when he saw her, not the kind of corporate grin she'd grown used to over the years, but something quieter, warmer, as if her presence confirmed a choice he already believed in. "Ready?" he asked, handing her a takeaway coffee cup. "You have no idea," she replied, taking it with a grin. The boardroom at Skyreach headquarters sat on the 40th floor, glass walls opening to a panoramic view of the city below. The investors were already gathered when they arrived, men and women in sharp suits, their eyes scanning documents, checking devices, sipping overpriced espresso. Arya recognized the posture instantly. Confidence mixed with skepticism. The kind of audience that measured value before handshake. Damien introduced her with calm precision. "This is Arya Bennett. She'll be leading our global narrative initiative. She's the reason we're here today." Some of them raised eyebrows, others didn't even blink. Arya stepped forward slowly, inhaled, and began. She didn't talk about credentials. She didn't reference case studies or market analytics. She told them a story. The airport, the man with the injured ankle, the choice to stop, the moment of hesitation and the decision to act anyway. She spoke of how narratives aren't built in boardrooms, but in the split second someone decides to help. "We live in a world where people don't stop anymore," she said, her voice steady but firm. "I want to work in a place that rewrites that. A place that doesn't just move planes but moves people, where courage isn't corporate, it's human." She paused. Let silence do its work. One of the investors, a gray-haired woman with a diamond pin on her lapel, leaned forward and asked, "But you're not from this world, are you? You're not from aviation, not from tech. What makes you think you can lead this?" Arya met her gaze without blinking. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible," she said, "and because I know how much power it takes to see someone clearly. I may not be from this world, but I understand what it means to build one that includes everyone." The woman sat back, her expression unreadable. Damien said nothing. He didn't need to. The room had shifted. Arya could feel it. Not applause, not praise, but recognition. Afterward, in the hallway, Damien handed her a bottle of water. "You just turned a pitch meeting into a manifesto," he said. "Is that a compliment?" she asked, sipping. "It's a revolution," he said quietly. The rest of the day blurred tours, team meetings, an impromptu brainstorm session with the creative department. Arya moved through it all with growing confidence, each small success feeding the next. By evening, she stood alone on the rooftop garden outside the Skyreach lounge, watching the sky deepen into velvet blue. Damien joined her, 2 glasses of sparkling cider in hand. "Today, one," he said, offering her a toast. She clinked her glass against his. "To not running away." They drank in silence for a moment, the city lights glittering around them. Then Damien spoke again. "You know, I meant what I said. You're the reason we're doing this ride." Arya looked at him. "I just showed up. You built the plane." "Maybe," he said, "but it doesn't matter how fast the plane is if no one's on board to tell the truth." She felt the weight of those words settle between them. She turned away briefly, trying to mask the emotion in her throat. "You know what I keep thinking about?" she said after a while. "That email, the one that said no rescheduling. If I had made that flight, I'd be in a windowless conference room right now, selling someone else's idea to people who barely listen." "You'd be exceptional," Damien said, "but for the wrong cause." "Now," she said softly, "I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." He didn't respond. Instead, he took a slow breath and looked at her not just with admiration, but something deeper, something anchoring. She felt the shift again. Not sudden this time, but like a tide pulling her closer to something she hadn't dared hope for. "What?" she asked, a half-smile forming. "You're going to ruin me for other hires," he said. She laughed. And then, as if the air had been waiting for it, the moment stilled. Damien reached into his pocket and handed her a folded card. Inside was a handwritten note. "What you saw in that terminal wasn't a test. It was a beginning. And I'm glad you saw me." She looked up. "You carry this around?" "Only for people who change the plan," he said. "Only for people who matter." The rooftop was quiet. The lights shimmered, and in that pause between past and future, between what almost happened and what could still be, Arya understood something she hadn't dared to believe since she was a girl with nothing but dreams and a stubborn heart. She wasn't chasing a job anymore. She was stepping into a purpose, and for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to apologize for wanting more. She looked at Damien, nodded slowly, and said, "Then let's build something no one sees coming." "Together," he replied. And this time it wasn't a question, it was a promise.